Good evening, everyone. My name is Paulo Melo, and I'm also one of the global entrepreneurs in residence at UMass, at the Venture Development Center. And this panel is going to be about how to beat the odds as immigrants entrepreneurs. All of us are global entrepreneurs in residence. And I don't know if most of you know what the program is all about. I can give a quick intro. It's essentially a way for you to legally stay in the country, working as a part-time staff at the university by using your skills and experience to actually help the university train new entrepreneurs or staff or students that need that type of help. And at the same time, you can grow your business, even though you're technically not an employee yet. But you have time to either do fundraising, this dev, talk to customers, do that initial work that needs to be done in a company that is growing. At the same time, as an H-1B part-time, you need to start thinking about your next step. And that's what the program allows you to, is it gives you a buffer, it gives you a little bit of, or less sleepless nights while you're growing your business and figuring out your visa situation. So that was in a nutshell what the program is. I myself, as I mentioned, I'm a GEIR. I started over a year ago, and I'm about to graduate this month. I just got my green card accepted. So that's what we say when we graduate the program. That's what it means. And what we're going to be discussing is a little bit about the program, what it brings to the entrepreneurs, what it brings to the university, and listen to the personal stories of each one of us here. So I'd like to start, by each one of you introducing and telling you a little bit where you came from, and tell us about your business too, your companies.
So I'm Alessandro. I'm half French, grew up in Paris, then I studied and worked in London for a few years, and then I came to Boston in 2014. To study at MIT Sloan with no expectation of staying here. But along the way, I met a PhD candidate and partnered with MIT Sloan on a market research project, which was never meant to be a company, on the premise that technology and biology would intersect and create something amazing to help us all understand more about our bodies. The outcome of this research identified a market pool coming from athletes, specifically endurance athletes, telling us that they were lacking the information they needed to perform their best. And as a result, we kind of spun out a company out of it, which builds a device which measures the way your muscles are using oxygen in real time. And as a result, we can give you very actionable insights while you train, telling you how you warm up, where your limit is, how to recover. All of this in real time without knowing anything about you and regardless of who you are. And so kind of graduated from MIT, everything was going well. Raised a seed round and got to the point where I was without any visa, and I met Bill.
Thank you, Paulo. My name is Fanyu Lin. I'm from China. My grandparents gave me this beautiful name. In Chinese, it means ordinary tree in a forest. So, I kind of like it. It always reminds me like how we are all interconnected and part of the something greater than ourselves. I came to the US to pursue my master's degree in architecture, so I want to build houses for people. And I become more and more increasingly realized and also concerned about the social and economic aspects of architecture, which I didn't really study this two aspects in school, in design school. One of the definitive moments for me to really explore the social aspect of architecture is back in 2008 in my hometown in Sichuan, a province in China. There's a huge earthquake there, so a lot of villages is damaged. At that time, I'm already studying architecture, and I work with the internationally well-known architects around the world to explore the post-disaster reconstruction for natural disasters. So this is kind of my personal story leads me to working on similar things. When I studied architecture in Columbia University, I also focus on the technology, which we call prefabrication. So it's apply the factory system to build houses very effectively, very sustainably. Back in 60s, there are so many also visionary architects trying to experiment this method, but the technology is simply not there. Now, in the recent 5 years, the technology reached a tipping point where this kind of system can be realized and scaled to mass market. So I'm very lucky to work on this project and co-founded this startup called Fluxus LLC. This company is a startup, 4 years old, but actually its history can be traced back to half a century ago. It's, our company is also a spin-off of a larger organization, a non-for-profit, but we find the sustainable business model is the only way it can make a social impact. The traditional charity model has a lot of limitations. As a co-founder of this firm to make social impact, I faced the visa issue myself. So I was searching for different solutions for global entrepreneurs in the US. US is one of the biggest community for startups. I'm sure a lot of international students and entrepreneurs face the same problem. And I'm very lucky I just Googled it online. So I find the UMass Boston project is one of the top results. I'm very lucky to be part of the community here.
Hello, my name is Joana Vieira. I am from Portugal. I went to school for product design in Lisbon, and that's also where I co-founded Line Health. We are developing a smart pill dispenser to help chronic patients and the older population to manage their medication. And by doing so, we are keeping people healthier and at home. We are keeping hospital beds available for the ones that need it the most. We are saving costs for the hospital. We are saving costs for the health insurances that can spend all that money elsewhere in a better way. We started the company in Lisbon in an accelerator where we met Paulo.
I'm also Portuguese. I forgot.
Also Portuguese. Yeah. And shortly after, we joined the first accelerator put together by Bayer Healthcare, the pharmaceutical company. They also wanted to innovate in healthcare, so they picked the best startup ideas in Europe and put them all together in their headquarters in Berlin. So that's where we went next. And we learned a lot from them, seeing the real problems and really how the pharmaceutical industry worked and getting all that information regarding medication directly from the source. After that, we went back to Lisbon. But we knew that that wasn't enough because our big market was here, the big players were here, all the money was here, and a huge chunk of the problem was here. So about a year and a half ago, we got our first investor here in Boston, and we knew that we just had to come and start our way in this country. And so Paulo actually was the one who told me about this program. Because when you're applying for visas on your own, like we heard before, it's very hard. It takes many, many months. And in startup life, time is almost, if not more valuable than money sometimes. Because life doesn't stop, and you always have to be fundraising and getting more partners and clients and expanding your business. So you just can't stop. And to be able to come here right away and also be able to share my experience and learn from the community here is just the best outcome possible.
Cool. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Thomas Ketchell. I am the CEO and co-founder of Sutori. I'm half British, half French, and I grew up primarily in Belgium. And our company actually started in China, and then we moved to Belgium, and we were in Belgium for about 6 months, and I think we tried to raise with about 52 investors out there, and we got rejections from all of them. And at that point, we were like, should we continue with this idea, or should we just give up? And that's when we actually came to Boston, and we did a couple of pitch events and then got some angel investors that put money in us. And then we kind of faced the problem that, hey, our tourist visa was running out. What were we going to do? And that's when one of our investors told us that she knew Jeff Busgang and she knew Bill from UMass and told us about the GEIR program. That's when we applied and successfully got through. And so our company is Sutori, and we're a platform for teachers and students to create interactive stories. So it works just like a Google Doc. Students build them collaboratively, they add videos, pictures, and quiz questions. And now we're used by over 500,000 teachers and students from across the world, but primarily in the States.
Thanks, guys. So I know this, choosing, from my own experience when I was also on my B1, getting out of Techstars, running out of time to, keep growing my business, I had to make a decision. And I had plenty of decisions on the table that I could in terms of visa-wise. And I ended up choosing this program, Global Entrepreneur Residence, because of the amount of time I would have to invest on a personal level to make sure I stay. So I would want to ask you, in your personal experience, what other options did you have available? Did you think through other options? Because a lot of times, these companies, every company is in different stages when they apply to the program, and you might have other options available. So I just wanted to have, those thoughts from any one of you guys.
So the answer is I had no other choice. So graduated from Sloan, went through the MIT Accelerator, had OPT for a year, raised a seed round, grew the company, hired people, and everything was going amazingly well. We were extremely lucky, and got to the point where I didn't get a visa. The whole team was American. We had support from American sports teams, American athletes. MIT was here. Not that the company could not exist in another country, but for an early stage company, it felt that the US and specifically Boston was where we needed to be. So met Bill, got in the program, applied, and my visa was rejected. And so by the time it was rejected, the visa with the GIR visa, the Cap Exam H1B, my work authorization had ended. So I had to cease employment with the company, leave everything, and I was given essentially 90 days to leave the country. And at that time, Bill agreed to try again with a different formula. We filed another visa, and a month later I was given the right to work for UMass as an employee. Stayed in the country, didn't get deported, and then filed for a third one, which would allow me over next year to work both for UMass, but for my company. And then just 2 weeks ago, got an O1 visa, which now gives me way more flexibility for the next 3 years. But without the GIR program, I would have been deported. I really tried everything, and it was my last resource.
You wouldn't be deported, you'd probably leave.
Yeah, I would have left, yeah.
So I did some research in this, the working visa or visa options for global entrepreneurs in the US, and I find some very interesting efforts. Some is practical, some is not very practical, but very visionary. One of it, it's called a Blue Seat. They are a big boat located, it's still an idea. They didn't really build it. They didn't really raise enough funds to execute it. But the idea is to utilize the international water right next to the Silicon Valley. So it's like a huge incubator to support global entrepreneurs until they get funded, can become their own employers and get H-1B visa. It's a beautiful idea, and I think they raised a lot of money, but not enough to really kickstart. It's a nice effort. And another option, I think, Nitin is also here. He and a co-founder funded organization called Unshackled Venture. They are venture capitalists also in Silicon Valley, supporting global entrepreneurs. And I also thought of the O1 visa for artists and outstanding individuals. So these are different options. But I'm very lucky to get to know Global Entrepreneur in Residence program, which is a very mature program supporting global entrepreneurs for more than 2 years. And this is later I get to know that this is the first program among the national effort. Also now have in different places, different universities, different states, including New York City. So, yeah, this is several options I explored.
Well, the option for me was just to do it myself and stay in Lisbon, enjoy the sun and the cheap food for many, 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 many months. And that could mean that I would waste too much time and I would have to do everything over the phone on a 5-hour difference. And that could risk everything. Because when you're in an early stage startup, one small mistake can just ruin everything. And some risks you're not willing to take. So there had to be a better way. And also, I feel like it's not only about being able to come here and being able to come faster and easier. It's also really about the community. Because I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but at least for us in Portugal, the startup community is very strong and very close, and everyone knows each other and everyone helps each other. And that's really how we all grow together and help each other, because we all go through different things, but ultimately we're all trying out for the same goal, and we can all share the partnerships we get and all the people we meet and everything we learn. And so when you come to a new country where you know no one and nothing, you kind of have to find a way to find that community and be part of it. And when you have programs like this, half the work is done for you. You just have to show up and everyone is there. And everyone comes from a different place and everyone shares that with you. The coming from a different place and having a different background, a different story, different struggles, but ultimately being there for the same reason. And you just have to talk to the people that are around you, and that community is there. And I feel like that's priceless.
So, I mean, from our end, I found the whole process really, really stressful and a complete waste of time. You know, the amount of time you spend on Google trying to research the visas, and then you're looking at the answers on Quora, and someone's like, yeah, I did this and got that visa. The unfortunate thing with our company, so we were 3 founders, all European, and you know, I got an H-1B, but my co-founders didn't. So they went to actually Santiago, and we did Startup Chile at the same time. So it's a program in Santiago that offers $30,000, equity-free. And so we were doing in between Boston and Chile. It was only like 2 hours difference, time difference, so it was okay. And now, finally, they got in on J1 visas, so they're here in the States. But that whole process was just such a waste of time. And, you know, I'm happy there's more and more startup visas being talked about, because, you know, I don't know how much money and time we've wasted with visa search.
Yeah, it's very stressful. I also felt that till recently. So, you know, having this buffer of time to, you know, work on your business, what have you guys accomplished at the, you know, company level and also at the university level? Because, you know, it's part of our work, part-time job to actually add value. So yeah.
So for the university, I've done many things from teaching classes. The classes I was taught at MIT, I would teach them. Being on panels for student entrepreneurs. I even hired one of the VDC interns as our intern and trained him for 4 months. Just get connected or offer advice, anything we do. In terms of the company, we went to a point where we had just, you know, raised a seed round, everything was going to the point where, you know, we have a product in the market, people training with it, you know, derive value from it. We're at a point where, kind of at a crossroad of like big expansion, going to ship internationally. You know, many things happen which wouldn't have been possible. But the second thing was, from the moment I also got this opportunity and this CapEx of H1B, the only thing I would think about is, okay, how am I going to stay beyond that point? And one of the most common exit routes is either the green card or the O1 visa, which are subjective visa and require a lot of preparation. And so the day I got this stage capex with B, it was also all about preparing how am I going to justify to immigration that I deserve this green card, O1 or any other visa. And that took a bunch of my week every week.
Yeah. If you guys can also add that to your answer, would be great. Where you are right now, I mean, as GIRs, and what are your next steps in terms of visa? How are you planning to exit or graduate?
Very similar. We also hired an intern from UMass Boston, which is a very talented financial specialist who helped us perfecting our financial model, which is very helpful, and it's a nice exchange. It always goes both ways. We also met our chief business advisor through VDC, who is assigned to us as a mentor. He's there. Mr. John Hamilton is on the back today here. And we're very proud to know him, and he become one of our partners now. This is a very nice community, give us a lot of support to becoming a really viable business, a venture. In return, we also, I personally will involve in some of the classes just as an advisor to share experiences, and also connecting VDC, this great program, Global Entrepreneur in Residence, into other communities, mostly from China and from New York City, where our business is based. More startup communities, especially those who has a lot of global entrepreneurs, will get to know this program, get to know Venture Development Center. So this is, I think this goes both ways. We contribute to the community, and the community will be able to help have access to a greater talent pool who are also facing same challenge. So after this program, I imagine I might pursue O1, or maybe our company will be viable to support my visa ourselves.
On a business level, life is good, life is crazy. Hiring a bunch, a lot of investors interested, a lot of partners have been, and clients keeping them away with a stick, because we just can't have all the things happen at once. Everything has been great. On the university level, this is great. I love doing this. It's been a while. I used to do it in Lisbon all the time, and being able to have students come into the VDC and ask questions and help them out. Also, we were on the judging panel of a class that was very, very fun. Professor Robert Schultz is somewhere. I saw him before. Those kind of, hi Robert. Those kind of things are really, really fun, and it's when you really feel like you're giving back, and everything you've been through makes sense and is going to help someone else succeed. Next steps, preparing the path for a green card.
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, it's a combination of everyone else's answer. So we joined the VDC, we had about 60,000 people using our platform, and now we've grown to 500,000. It's not just thanks to the VDC, but they did support us and make sure that we stayed in the country. And then in terms of students, it's always, it's super helpful to actually hear their startup ideas, so like entrepreneurship classes, and then basically just sharing our experience of everything that we did wrong and correct, and then sort of sharing that knowledge. But I think that's really a combination of all of that.
Thanks. So now I think it's about time for the Q&A. Yeah, audience Q&A. So anyone that has questions or more about the personal stories, we have a lot of them.
Good evening, everyone. And my name is Ronan. I'm from Brazil, and I speak Portuguese too.
Boa noite.
Yeah. And I'm a mentor in a startup weekend from Google for Entrepreneur. And we also worried about how to build a good team, because it's the biggest problem for startups. And in your opinion, what's the most important things to do to build a good team for your startup? You know, because I know that it's a big problem for startups, and I could imagine, especially for you, that you aren't from US, so it could be harder. You know. Thanks for.
I think when you're trying to build a team, it's not something that you need someday and you go out and you're going to find that person is going to be perfect. I think it's the harder part is something you have to do all the time, keep on meeting people, because the day you have a need, it might take you 3 months to find the right match. But if you started 3 months before you had that need, then you'll know that person, and the day you realize, oh, I need a mobile developer, you'll think about that person and say, this is perfect. So I think it's this constant thing you always have to do, meet people, go other things. And then in terms of like the qualities and the background you're looking for, I think it's very personal. Different companies are trying to build different cultures with different skill sets. What we do for a small company is, we make sure they understand and believe in what we're trying to do. That has nothing to do with liking sports or liking wearables. It has to do with believing that the future is about understanding your body. That there's a cultural fit, someone that you want to spend 18 hours of your day with, and that there's a drive to learn, which is a bit more important than bringing someone that has 100% of the skills.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Everybody wants. Very briefly, that's a super good question. And most of the time, companies don't have the same team all the time. The original team might not follow along through the journey. But I think a like-minded team member is very important, and that's also can be cultivated and developed. In my case, my co-founder is both of us bootstrapped for 2 years. So we really believe in the mission, and the third person co-founder coming as an investor. So when we have very little traction, but have a big dream, have some traction, and he also understand the business. He also need us kind of, again, like-minded. And the fourth person, very similar, care about the same issue, social housing, like global crisis, and also see the trend, big trend, sustainability, prefabrication. So everybody bring their own resources, and they know we're going to do something great together. So this is very important. We attract people. We don't look for people. Somehow, and it's also very important to have references. You have a community, and people will refer you to people who is looking for opportunities. And in team building, I think to get to know each other, personality is very important. A lot of issues, daily conflict, decision making has a lot to do with the team building. So yeah.
Look for people with curiosity, passion, and resourcefulness.
Sure. David McFarlane here. I'm actually on the next panel. I thought I'd ask you my questions and see how you answer them. GEIR, it feels like a bit of a chicken and egg situation when it comes to funding. So could you help clarify for that? Do you need to be funded before you can get a GEIR visa? And if that's the case, how do you get funded when you don't have a visa to be in the country?
It's a really good question. I can give a quick answer, and maybe we can all give that. So in our case, we fundraised before, so it was actually easier to sponsor the visa through the university, through the donations to the university. But I mean, each one has a different story, and
I think it's yes, because you need to prove that the company has enough money to pay you. So you need money in the bank of the company, and you need to be able to pay for the legal costs. But to fundraise, you're going to want to show investors that you're going to be in the country for more than 60 days or 90 days. So it's this kind of fine line where you can't lie, but you have to be very confident about, okay, is this going to work? I mean, as an example, I moved to the US 2.5 years ago, and I got my O1 visa 3 weeks ago. The total legal costs, just immigration, were $24,000. Just to stay here. Which is crazy.
The first answer is yes. We need to be funded in order to part of the program. And I guess in my case, the investor is our co-founder. At that time, I already actively looking for solutions for that. So actually, the first funding come right before I apply for this program.
From our case, we actually, so we had some seed money, but then we actually helped broker the corporate sponsor. So I went to Silicon Valley Bank, who was our bank, and I really pushed them. I said, hey, there's this program, like we need sponsorship, and then they bankrolled a lot of visa costs for a lot of entrepreneurs. So there's always a way around to figure out how to sort that out.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Can you talk a little bit about how you manage your finances? So not in terms of like absolute figures, but in terms of percentage, how much goes to like employee cost, research, and all those sorts of things?
I think it's about the program cost, right? Program cost, like for the company. Is it the program cost, the total cost for the company? Just as a startup, how much you would have to spend to have access to the program?
It depends on the startup. We do hardware, so we have inventory, manufacturing, molding. So I guess for us, the main two costs are payroll and these manufacturing and prototyping costs.
It's also based on which stages you are at. For example, now we're raising the next round of funding where we will put 10 to 20% into intellectual property protection and development. We have another partner who is a top IP lawyer in New York City who just joined us as a partner and working on that. We have to allocate resources to we are also doing hardware. So that's very important to protect the different iterations of our technologies. And more than 50% of the funding is go to the working capital, like daily operations. And also salary is very minimal now, but it's going to grow because we have to hire more people as we achieve the next stages.
Yeah, for us doing hardware, just like my fellow there, the most of the money goes to the development of the product and all the costs that come with that, and also the team, because we need the best engineers we can find, and those cost money. So most of the cost really runs around the product and the people that are building it.
So we're purely software, so our costs are a lot lower, and ours is mainly the first 2 years was product development. So yeah, technically R&D, and then now it's at the stage where it's like hiring salespeople and marketing managers and growing that team.
Do we have time for more questions? Yeah, one more. Two more. Oh, you can.
I just want to sort of give a bit of a comment. So I do research on immigration and educate Americans on the contributions of immigrant entrepreneurs. Thomas, I've read your story elsewhere, and I want to encourage all of you to do what Thomas is doing, which is getting his story out there about the challenges, but why America doesn't necessarily want to have people who want to create jobs and start businesses, and the innovative things that you all are doing, the kind of contributions you're making, the jobs, the innovation. And that's the only way we're going to change the conversation, and it's the only way we're going to get more policies that are more conducive to having people like you in America. Thanks.
I think there's just a little challenge about this is as an early stage startup, the image you have is very important in front of investors and other things. And I had one of these situations where also the story came out. And if you just go on social media and read all the comments that are associated to the article. I mean, it's sometimes like, why am I doing this, right?
Yeah,
so it's
just to give you an example, so I was lucky they asked me to go on Fox News to talk about immigration and immigration for startups. And a lot of my friends were like, yeah, don't do it. And I was like, no, this will be a good opportunity. We'll get the message out. And yeah, just like he said, the video came out and then it was just tons of abuse. And I had something like 80 Facebook messages, which were all telling me to go home and America is for Americans. And, your idea is rubbish and a lot of swear words. So there was a lot of negativity towards that. But we also felt it was important to tell other entrepreneurs that, we need to change the conversation and get more and more people talking. And we work with another organization called Forward US and the American Immigration Council to sort of push that message. But it is tough as entrepreneurs because you don't want to wreck your image. And some of us was all really early stage as well. So it is tough.
Yeah, I mean, by myself, I did an NPR story a few weeks ago, and actually it's pretty good to let people know about the program and options they have. And overall, I mean, I didn't get any bad comments. There were just a bunch, but most of them were very positive. So I was, yeah, that was NPR. There's probably a bias there, but that's my experience.
I don't really understand the concept of us entrepreneurs coming here and stealing jobs. That's something that I don't understand, because for each of us that come here, dozens of jobs are created for one of us. Because this is such a painful process to get here. We're not going to bring our whole country with us. We're not going to spend a year on everyone that lives in Portugal to bring them all here. It would take so long. So we are coming here so that our ideas and our businesses can grow faster and better and actually impact people's lives and change the world. And how are we going to do that? Not by ourselves. We're going to do that with all of you. So for each one of us that comes, dozens and dozens of jobs are created. So come on, people.
So I guess we're done. If you have any more questions, feel free to come during networking. We'll be more than happy to answer them. And thanks again for all the discussion. And thanks for listening.